Hello, BookTube. Well, it's the 1st of October, and first thing this morning, 5 in the morning, it felt it. It felt almost chilly. Autumnal, almost. It's a bright, beautiful day, not a single cloud in the sky, not a hint of wind, no threat of rain or anything like that, but the temperature, at least, was nice and chilly. That's an illusion. Today is going to be a little south of 70, and tomorrow is going to be a little south of 70, and maybe tonight, maybe it will go down into the 50s Fahrenheit. But then the temperature is going to go right back up into the upper 70s and 80s, and stay that way. So, but nevertheless, starting off the month this way made me think about the Brattle Bookshop. So I settled everything here and went. It's a used bookstore in downtown Boston. I love them. I love the shop. I love going there. So I went. I go all the time, and you'd think maybe that would mean I would overfish the place. But in addition to being 3 stories of used books that turn over all the time, the Brattle's always out buying, there's also a sale lot next door to the store with thousands and thousands of sale books for $1, $3, or $5. And those change all the time too. So it's very seldom necessary for me to really go shopping inside. And I shopped all around this morning out in the sale lot. I got a bunch of stuff. I somehow got it all back here. And I want to show it to you. What did I get? 1 paperback? Yeah, I got 1 paperback. We can start with the paperback. I'm looking at the pile now, and I'm realizing how heavy it is on biography. but biography is my favorite thing to read, so that makes sense, right? I'm not one of those fake booktubers who buys things they don't like to read. So anyway, the paperback was a test of the question. I've said on this channel many times over the however many decades we've been talking to each other, I've said I love UK trade paperbacks, just love them. And that sometimes I will buy a UK trade paperback, even if I'm not all that interested in the subject matter, because I like the format. Something about the square cut of the spine, something about the quality of the paper, or lack thereof, I just love them. And the question now is, well, do I like UK trade paperbacks so much that I'd be willing to buy one of a book I already own? And the answer is yes. I found it, a UK trade paperback of who's this? Phoenix Press, Pimlico Press, whatever, of James Pope Hennessy's biography of Anthony Trollope, which is great. It is a great biography. I am looking at the hardcover over on the biography wall, but I couldn't leave this behind. For $1, I couldn't leave this behind. And who knows? Maybe I will enjoy using this. A little empty envelope in there. Someone was using as a bookmark. Odd that would be your only bookmark. Well, anyway, maybe I will use this more than I would the hardcover, but I couldn't leave it behind. I love this, as with any artistic biography, really, but especially authors. The acid test is not how much research the writer has done. I mean, of course, that's going to be a yardstick for any biography. How much research have you done? Are there whole tranches of things that you simply don't know about? Not that you don't have access to. Not that the widow wasn't willing to talk to you, but she was willing to talk to the next guy up the lane. I mean, that you just don't know about. So you are not as good a biographer as the one before you or maybe the one after you. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about how good they are with the art. A biographer of Anthony Trollope, who is not a good, perceptive reader of the novels of Anthony Trollope, is going to be a poor biographer of Anthony Trollope, no matter how much research they've done. I know this because I've read biographies of this author where the writer just doesn't get the fiction at all, or so superficial that it might as well be a high school report. And Pope Hennessy is not that. He gets the writing really well. It's just wonderful. So I got a UK trade paperback of a book I already own in hardcover, so sue me. Then we have another biography. I can't believe I found this out in the sale lot for like $3. I haven't read this thing in eons. It must be the late 70s. That was last time I read this. This is by Joseph Dineen, and this is The Purple Shamrock, a biography of James Michael Curley, the legendary mayor of Boston. This was, this was Curley's first biography, and it was 1949, and Dineen and Curly had a long, contentious relationship, to put it mildly. Dineen wrote about Curly all the time, covered him for the Boston Globe. Basically, I mean, he didn't. That wasn't the name. That wasn't the title of your beat. God, Curly would have loved that if there'd been a Curly beat officially. But Dineen wrote about him almost to the exclusion of anything else. And then he wrote this book. And there's a trio of great biographical works about this figure, who is important. There's a quartet, actually, of great books, but there's a trio of great biographical works. There's this, The Purple Shamrock, which I never thought I would see in a used bookstore. I just didn't. I never see it. Never. And then there's Curly's own book, I'd Do It Again, which is, well, it's inimitable. You really have to read it. And then there's Jack Beatty's book, The Rascal King, which I am extremely loyal to this book. I love it. But The Rascal King is just a better biography. It's just hands down better. I hate to say it, but nevertheless, these things are judgeable, and they're very much both worth reading. And then, of course, the fourth thing is not a biography, and that is The Last Hurrah by Edwin O'Connor, which is about James Michael Curly in all but name. So I was overjoyed to find this thing. I will give it a reread. It's going to be weird to read it after all this time. Then I found a work of, it belongs on that wall that I have of books about books or books about writing or that sort of thing. Because these were occasional pieces. I don't know that the author would ever admitted that, and I also don't know if the author's going to admit it. I mean, in the book, does the author admit it? Sometimes they will, and sometimes they won't. No, don't. Okay, well, the author here is John Clive, who wrote a great biography of Thomas Babington Macaulay. So he's a biographer of a historian. And this is his book, Not by Fact Alone, which is a collection of pieces of his writing about specific works of history, about the practice of history, and also about other specific books. This is a collected occasional pieces. Maybe we don't have to insult the ghost of John Clive by calling it collected reviews, because I guess that's horrible. That has to come in through the servant's door. But it's still occasional prose. It's still that an editor said, hey, I need this by such and such a time and such a word length. You might become so august later in life that you want to forget that, but it's still true. It was still that. And I had a trade paperback of this a long time ago. Did I read this when it first came out? Yeah, 1989. That was probably when I did read it. I had a trade paperback of it, and that trade paperback is long gone. It fell to pieces. I remember thinking this author was really blindingly smart, but also stuffy, and sometimes borderline unreadable because of that. And I want to see if the author has changed. I want to see if I have changed. I want to see if I have grown so that maybe what I conceived as stuffiness in 1989 was just that the author knew a lot more than I did. He's really, really good on Macaulay. He's also great on Gibbon. Oh, my. So I will prioritize this before the end of the year. But who am I kidding? I'm going to read most of these things before the end of the year. And a couple of them before the end of the week. Then this next one, I don't want any of you getting any ideas. Okay? I don't want you getting any ideas. I mentioned in a few videos that recently Francois Ozon's new black and white movie version of Albert Camus' The Stranger was and still is fixating me. I have watched it I don't know how many times. I have a screener of it. I've watched it I don't know how many times. I've mentioned that now a few times, that it is completely absorbing me. It is being slow to move out for some other obsession. And a number of you have said, well, that's awful odd. You don't like foreign films. You don't like black and white films. You don't like subtitled films. You don't like artsy-fartsy films. You don't like Camus, and you don't like philosophy. So why do you like this movie so much? And a number of you said it may have something to do with the star of the movie, but trust me, that would only go so far. That wouldn't get the number of rewatches that I've had with it already. I don't know what the answer is, but it got a number of you excited. A number of you got all antsy thinking, oh, this means Steve's going over to philosophy. And that's not going to happen, because philosophy is a complete categorical waste of time. It is sheer nonsense from start to finish. And usually is accompanied by the very worst prose that any human beings have ever written. But having watched that movie now I don't know how many times, I did think, you should reread The Stranger. And I think the first book that I laid eyes on at the Brattle this morning was The Stranger, in a slipcase here with a lovely, lovely design here. Who is this? The Heritage Club did this, and it's thick, heavy stock paper. It's full of original illustrations. I'm usually not any good with fancy schmancy books like this, but I couldn't. When you're at the Brattle sale lot, you really can't just ignore the nudgings of the gods. You really can't do that. And it was the first thing I laid my eyes on was this thing that I've been contemplating rereading. Now, so I grabbed it, of course, because it was cheap. But the real thing I want, and those of you in France can probably help with this. The real thing I want to know if that movie, the new movie of The Stranger, is going to have like a movie version of the book. Is a version going to come out in France with the cover from the movie, the poster or something like that from the movie? Is that possible? Or is this thing going to fly under the radar of everywhere? Maybe the studio is so small that it won't merchandise the movie. I really want a copy of this book with that is connected to this movie that has so preoccupied me. That's what I really want. So any of you in France, feel free to scout out your bookstores for that, and then let me know. Take pictures. Take pictures. I stress again, take pictures. You would be, if looking at my emails, you would assume that we are living in 1950. Every one of you walks around with a high-resolution camera on you at all times, and yet I get email after email after email saying, "Oh, I saw this cute dog in the park. He was just sitting there. It was so adorable." Or, "I saw this cute guy in the park. He was just sitting there. It was so adorable." Or, "I went to a used bookstore and I saw a whole shelf of books that I think would have interested you." Where are my pictures? Why aren't you taking pictures? I was walking through a field and I saw a bird on a branch, and I've never seen that bird before. Why not take a picture? Why not send me a picture? Anyway, that's what I really want, is a copy of The Stranger connected with that movie. Don't know such a thing exists. Then this next one, I could not believe that I found these out in the sale lot for $5 a piece. I am pretty sure that if I wanted to buy this 2-book set out there in the wild, like on eBay or Amazon Marketplace or whatever, I'm pretty sure I would be spending over $100, not $10. And here is what it is. It's F.M. Powick, and it's his King Henry III and Lord Edward. See that? The community of the realm in the 13th century. King Edward III and Henry III and Lord Edward, Volume 1 and Volume 2. When I was studying the Black Death, I saw this in a million different bibliographies, and I actually got it through, I think, the Boston Public Library. I think they got me this 2-volume set. It took a long time. It came with stickers and papers stuck all over it to let people know whose it was and where it goes to. And I loved it. It is the nuts and bolts of what was going on in King Henry's reign and the reign of his successor. It was the nuts and bolts of what's going on. Where were people? What were they doing? What were they paying? Wonderful. Absolutely wonderful to think about getting this. I never thought in a million years. I don't know. I'm not really in a mood for King Henry III, but maybe. Certainly by the end of the year, but I don't know about by this weekend. Then a couple more biographies. Sorry. I found, for instance, this. I love this book, Wellington, The Years of the Sword. This is by Elizabeth Longford, and this is volume 1 of her 2-volume biography of the Duke of Wellington, and which follows a standard. The Duke of Wellington's life is split very conveniently into 2 halves. The first half, he is a younger son and a warrior who ends up defeating Napoleon. And then the second half is him as the second half is called the Pillar of State, with him as a statesman with gray hair, and he's left the battlefield. And I looked around. I saw this right away and remembered, I don't have it, and I want it. There comes a point when you just admit that there are certain works of nonfiction that you just love. You just love going back to them, regardless of whether or not there are newer ones. I don't think about biography or history that way. Unless it is factually wrong, I'm perfectly happy to go back to older works. Elizabeth Longford wrote a biography of Queen Victoria that I just love, but I actually want to revisit this 2-volume set, and I looked for the Pillar of State with the dust jacket and didn't see it. So I'll find it. It'll turn up somewhere. It'll turn up. And in the meantime, I have Wellington, the Military Years, which is all of the battles that he did in the Napoleonic era, culminating in a terrific account of the Battle of Waterloo. So a really good volume to have. Really, really good. It's just, you reach a point where you just think, no, I just love this book. I mean, there was a newer 2-volume biography of Wellington that did the exact same thing, split along the exact same lines. You have to. Your first volume has to be about Wellington the warrior. Your second half has to be about Wellington the politician. It has to be. His life was split that way. I forget the name of the guy who did that. We've seen them on this channel a decade ago. I got rid of those. I also got rid of these, and I could kick myself, because it's not a question of it being the latest research on Wellington. It's a question of me enjoying the way this author writes. I enjoy the way this author writes, and I enjoy the way her daughter writes. I can't help that. So, I don't want to help it. So, this is a case where I found this for it was like a $3 book out in the sale lot. And this is a case where once I trundled inside the shop, I actually went to the British history section to see if maybe there was a hardcover of Wellington, the Pillar of State. Because I would have got it for, I say full price, but the books inside the shop were still cheap. I would have got it just so I could have the two of them at once. But it'll turn up. It'll turn up. The Brattle will provide. Then I found Charles Ross did a great biography of Richard III. I've had this many, many times. I don't have it at the moment. I was racking my brains when I saw it, and I don't actually have a copy, and it's really, really good. The final word on Richard III. There are a whole bunch of biographies there on Richard III, but this is the best one. This was for the University of California Press, did the English Monarchs series. They all look like this. They all have these maroon spines, and they are some of the best English Monarchs biographies out there. So I grabbed this. I don't have a Richard III biography, and although I don't like him, he is crucial. So I will have this now. And then finally, this last one. I saw it and thought, ooh, you should grab that because your copy is falling apart and or is already gone. And I grabbed it and I brought it back here, even though it's £1,000. And then I immediately checked the shelf. And I had already had that thought in an earlier Brattle visit. In an earlier Brattle visit, I had thought, hey, you should grab that because your copy is falling apart. Now, back then, I was right. My copy was falling apart, and I replaced it. But the copy I replaced it with is not a year old here at the house, so it's still fine. So I accidentally got a double of this, the collected essays of V.S. Pritchett. Gigantic thing. What is this? 1,200 pages long? Is that what you are? 1,300 pages long. Frail old me somehow managed to get this back here. And this is Pritchett writing about every writer under the sun. It's incredible. I love this volume. I think that if you read Pritchett on pretty much anybody in this book, you're going to want to go right out and find that author and read them. He is amazing in that regard. And the more I go back to this book, the more I revisit, the more I realize how it is so easy to characterize stuff like this. Oh, I need 600 words on Joseph Conrad. Oh, hey, I need 400 words on Lord Chesterfield. It's so easy to look at all that stuff, especially when it's all together like this, and say, well, there was no Wikipedia at the time, but it was still the hurried work of an assistant or one visit to the British Library. No, there's a lot of artistry going on here, a lot of it. And the more I visit this book, the more I see that. And of course, I like some of his obsessions, some of his recurrent areas of interest. He never passed up an opportunity to write, for instance, about Lawrence of Arabia. And I appreciate that, because there are a number of pieces in here that are about Lawrence of Arabia. Every critic, every prolific critic, should create a volume like this. Every prolific critic should have a big volume of their collected pieces like this. And this one, I mean, I grabbed it. I will have to make a mental note, a better mental note than I did the last time, that I don't need another copy of this. I now have a copy of this and an extra, so I don't need to grab this the next time I see it. Unless it's in a UK trade paperback, I don't want to think about that. Anyway, it's going to be fun to revisit this. Anyway, I won't revisit this volume. I'll just pull down mine. But anyway, there you go. That was the Brattle. Unfortunately, a double of the collected essays of V.S. Pritchett. We have Ross's book on Richard III. We have Elizabeth Longford's first volume of her 2-volume biography of the Duke of Wellington. We have F.M. Powick's book on King Henry III. A really functional biography. None of this, what were the legends when he was born, or anything like that. A functional biography. Then we have The Stranger by Camus. The only thing by Camus that I am going to read because of this new movie obsession. We have Not by Fact Alone. Musings on History by a Historian. We have The Purple Shamrock. The earliest biography of the legendary James Michael Curley. And finally, a biography of Anthony Trollope, the best biography of Anthony Trollope from the standpoint of his books. I think there are probably some elements of Glendinning's biography of him that I like better, but when it comes to the literature, this is the one that I want. So a big pile of heavy books to start off October. Started off October at the Brattle on a nice crisp morning. That felt great. So I'll wrap this up for now, and I will see you soon. Thank you, BookTube.